when the left looks at America, they're likely to see the slave master's whip, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, My Lai, Matthew Shepard dangling from a fence post, the homeless. That's what a lot of the leftists see when they look at America. What the rest of America sees looking at this country might include Washington's army bravely standing with him at Valley Forge, the 13th Amendment, Thomas Edison turning on the lights. You look at something like Lindbergh touching down at La Bourget, or the American GIs storming the beaches of Normandy, or liberating Dachau. You look at the wonder of Jonas Salk's lab, or Reagan saying, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Now, all of that is true. The first part, what the left sees, what the rest of us see, that's all America. And I'm very much for teaching the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to America. But you can't teach the good, the bad, and the ugly and not teach the good. And I think on the balance sheet of history, this country comes in the black, to use an accounting phrase, more than any other country in the history of the world. I'm not for replacing this kind of slanted, biased, left-wing take on America with a jingoistic, chest-beating look at our country. We should look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. We should recognize that there are some things that we shouldn't be proud of in our history. But if you look at it all on the balance sheet of history, we're very much in the black. I want to close with a couple of quotes and then throw it open to questions, and two quotes that I'm particularly fond of. One comes from a cartoonist who was before my time, and when I look out at the room, it certainly was before the time of most of the folks sitting in the room. And his name was Walt Kelly, and he had a cartoon called Pogo. This was before Doonesbury, before Garfield and all that. He was a famous cartoonist. And he released a cartoon in Earth Day, during one of the first Earth Days in the 1970s, and he was talking about man's degradation of the environment. But you could basically apply what he had to say in his cartoon to a lot of different things. And his character, Pogo, said, "We have met the enemy, and he is us." I think you can apply that to what's going on in this country today. I don't want to downplay the threat posed to the United States of America by some of our foreign enemies, particularly Al-Qaeda. We know that these guys mean business, but I think they're a short-term threat. They will be thrown on what Ronald Reagan called the ash heap of history, just like the Soviet Union, just like Nazi Germany. What I worry about, rather than external enemies, and I worry about the external enemies, but what I worry about more is this internal rot. And I think that poses a greater threat to this country, just like the internal rot that occurred in Rome. That is the kind of problem we face in the long term. And I think we need to face it. How do we face it? We face it with guns or with bombs or things like that? No way. I think we face it the way that we're facing it here today, through debate and discussion and talking about, through education, through educating people about what this country is really like and not what the warped mind of some professor thinks this country is really like. Let's look at reality and not some fantasy land. Finally, there's a quote that I'm particularly fond of from a lady, Jeane Kirkpatrick, who obviously was in the Reagan administration and is someone that you might frequently see on the television. She said a number of years ago, and this is something that I hope you take to heart, and I'm going to close with this. She said that Americans need to face the truth about themselves, no matter how pleasant the truth is. Thank you very much. Look forward to your questions.